Welcome everyone. We're glad to be here. So today's talk will be actually about the best way how to get prepared for an ERP selection. I'm Adrian. I'm a team leader in the MMC team.
And I'm Pierre, Key Account Manager in the MMC team.
All right. So actually, the reason why I did this talk today is because as salespeople in the MMC team, we realized actually that some of the clients actually get really well prepared for the ERP selection. Sometimes it's actually not the case. So here, the goal of today is actually to help you structure the way of an ERP selection for the different criteria. All right. Let's start actually with a question, guys. What do you think actually that the CEOs fear the most in the IT world? Any clue? That's it. No, it's not getting a bad flip. It's actually the risk. Okay, risk management is really important in the IT world. All right. So here, at some point at Odoo, what is important for us for a project is to reduce the risk, is to make sure that the implementation gets well without actually any risk before we get to the implementation. Okay, the goal is to get well prepared, and at some point at Odoo, that's what we do. We try to reduce the risk by a good product and by a great methodology that we're going to explain. All right? That's the question. How do we do this actually? Here on this talk, you're going to learn 5 things, 5 steps that you need to follow to make sure that the risk is well reduced and that you get prepared for an ERP process.
Actually, first of all, did you know that according to Panorama Group, 65% of companies that look for new ERP system actually do it because they simply want to improve their communication, their operational efficiency, and also the reporting. There is a fact. All the prospects, they're different, that's for sure. For example, some approach us with a detailed documentation, detailed RFQ, some others will come with a list of blank features maybe, and some request a demo. We even have some that ask us for a price even before we know what they actually search for, right? So they don't do it for the nice and fancy features. They do it because they need to define what they actually need. So what you need to do is really think about who needs what in your company and why. And why is actually a very important question. And I can tell you, if we work together, we'll actually quite annoy you with that question. Why? But actually, many customers still come with the habit of coming with a how. Every software are actually quite different, so it's actually our responsibility as an editor to give you a how that can answer the best your need depending on what we can offer you. Think also about how to make tomorrow efficient, right? Because you don't want to reproduce today. And the job will be to make sure that this how will answer the best the needs and improve the process as well. A typical mistake is also to think about blank features or even IT needs, because after all, what you really need is to make sure that your business run as smooth as possible. IT and features, they're just there to facilitate it. So at Odoo, our approach is actually quite simple. We qualify your needs, we do it in terms of as is, in terms of existing solution, and we will identify pain points that are related to it. It helps us defining and understanding, of course, your business and the way you work. We define business stories together and pain points related to it. Based on that, then we'll set up a tailor-made demonstration in our tool. That's actually plain and simple. Based on this demo, then you will be able, together with us, to identify how we can make tomorrow better. So basically, the to be, because again, the mistake would be to simply replicate what you currently have. Of course, it's not about just needs because you might have hundreds of even thousands of needs. It's also about priorities. And priorities is what? Is sometimes a process is actually in a way right now, but it needs re-engineering. So we need to be aware of it. Is it something critical? Is it a must have? Or is it optional? Is it what we call a nice to have? Sometimes, and actually quite often, we still have also customers that come with a need, but actually it's just there, but no one uses it. So maybe it can be dropped. So now that you actually know where you stand and what you need in the future, what's next, right? Second step is actually all about exploration. But of course, you will have to come well prepared. Don't stick to the typical stereotype. Come with some content, prepare your user stories, and also it's really important that you come with your expert, your field expert, the one that use the current solution because they know what works, they know what's missing, they know the gaps. A fun fact, actually, we still have plenty of customers really on a weekly basis, I can promise you, that still come because actually their manager asked them to explore Odoo, and they still come and tell us, no, actually everything is perfect. Well, if it was perfect, you wouldn't be there, right? The point is also digital trend and technology, especially in the ERP segment, they evolve quicker than ever, and the ERP market is actually bigger than ever. So the point is the key of success and of today, the workflow that work right now, doesn't define the way that company will answer the need tomorrow. We're actually the perfect example. I mean, where was Odoo 20 years ago? Didn't exist. Fabien was still studying. Where was Odoo 10 years ago? Actually, it was Open ERP and it was a completely different business model, right? So we know that as sales, we still have some customers that also come to us because they made their opinion about Odoo a couple of years ago, and actually they still think, okay, no, you're not a real ERP. What do we do about it at Odoo? There's two things. First of all, we don't take our success for granted. That's really key. Every year, we release a major upgrade and we make it accessible for all clients, even existing customers, for free. There is no catch there. The market is evolving and we need to evolve even quicker. The second thing that we do, because we understand that it's sometimes a bit tricky to follow this evolution that we have, is that we offer a full tailor-made demonstration made by our sales, and we also give a full entire access to our system for the client. Also, every time there is an update, again, they can access it free of charge. Because at the end of the day, the strategy of Odoo is to be as intuitive as possible and also to gather as much feedback of the clients as possible so that we can put it in the next update.
All right. So let's recap. We define the different business needs, right? We prioritize them. Then we explore the market, the different solution available as a comparison. Okay. Now it's time actually to structure the different criteria. All right. So what does that mean? That means that right now we are actually able to weight the added value of the different types of criteria. Okay. So here, actually, it's important to emphasize that different criteria doesn't have the same importance actually for the customer, and it's actually their responsibility to prioritize and to make the importance related to 5 different types of criteria. What are they? All right, let's start with the strategic criteria. What does that mean? Well, imagine you are a group, a holding company with different like subsidiaries, all right? And at some point, what you're looking for is to get one tool implemented basically that can appeal to the different subsidiary inside the group. Okay, so there is actually one role of politics here sometimes, because could be actually, one renewal with a call for tender for already current software, or could be actually a new call for tender because actually the current software doesn't apply to the business model of the company anymore. So sometimes actually this strategy could be pretty tricky, but actually for us at Odoo, the functional one is the one what we were looking for. The functional one, what do we state? We state that 20 years ago or even 10 years ago, we had actually the state that the companies were looking for actually the Rolls Royce, actually the real car of all the functionalities in one ERP. What are we looking for right now? I think that the customers are looking for the best price quality ratio, and this is typically what we offer out to do. We offer actually a high level of standards with high level of functionalities for an affordable price, and this is actually going on a trend that we challenge the customers on the must-have features and start the implementation with the must-have features, or MVP, actually to deliver fast and to get actually a project in the first phase implemented. All right. The third criteria type is actually the technical one. Technical is something that actually come already with the statement actually of the company. So what does it mean? Could be related to security procedures, could be related to GDPR rules, okay, that we need to stick to. All right. Could be related to the server. Are we working actually as a web-based solution? Are we working on a server-based solution? Do we need to work offline, online, etc.? This is basically related to something that is more accurate, let's say, but needs to get on actually with the will of the customer as well. Fourth, last but not least, obviously it's about the commercial aspects, about the price, obviously. Nothing but the price, just the price. So here, actually, which is important is to wait and to assess the value of the new RIP based actually on my needs. What is worth actually to select this ARP based on my different criteria, based on the situation of my company, based on the budget, based on the planning, and how do I assess basically one partner or editor compared to another solution. Okay, what is important as well in terms of commercial is to say, all right, this is basically the full price of this integrator offers me. All right, what is that included? Does that include only the licenses? Can I add as well the upgrade for the different version, the support, the hosting, etc. as a package? And the opposite side, we get actually the daily rates of implementation. And what again, I need to assess the value and actually the prioritization of this process in terms of commercial. The last one is the methodology that we're gonna stick to just right now. So let's recap. All right, we said actually that we defined the different business process, all right, the different business needs. Then we see the list of the different solution. Then we structure the different criteria. Now it's time actually to say, okay, we define everything about the product related. Now it's time actually to define who is going to do it and how is going to do it. All right. This is basically one of the things that is most important in a project implementation in ERP. Find a good partner. Find a partner actually that can fit with your culture, that can fit with your different growth and expectations. It's really important because at some point, you guys are on the same boat. All right. If it's sunk, you sunk with them. If you succeed with them. Actually, both going on both sides. All right. So here, actually, it's important to say sometimes the partner actually on the integrator get different strategy to implement the project. All right, is that related to an agile methodology, or in the other side, is that related actually on a one go live implementation? We got some example actually to offer you. Actually, on the agile methodology getting for MVP implementation, we had actually last year a client started in September. We finalized the ROE analysis, which is actually a phase zero to cover the business scope of the company and actually to try to implement already a couple of features and try to stick to the same methodology so that they can go along. All right. After this ROI analysis, what happens? They say, okay, we would like actually to get a second scenario when we really can prioritize the implementation of the features because we'd like to get actually in production not 9 months from now but 4 months from now. So typically that was one of the job that we did with the pre-sales team is to say, okay, in terms of recommendations, what can we stick in terms of features the most standard as possible so that the company can be alive actually with Odoo within 4 months. And it succeeded. And it succeeded. So that means that this MVP and must-have strategy over the years is actually really concrete and working at Odoo. Second, what we realize as well is that the phasing at the big bang could be completely different as well. We emphasize as the methodology of Odoo, obviously the phasing, but we do sometimes actually big bang project as well. Why? Because sometimes it's impossible to jungle actually from an implementation in the back end of the system and sometimes with the front end as well. One is linked to the other one and the other one is linked to the first one. And so that means that sometimes we need to change a little bit like our pure methodology. We adapt, we tailor-made to the customer, and then we deliver actually on one shot, on one go live. All right? That was basically a little bit for the theory. But one thing is for sure, is that the client involvement in both systems are essential. And this is what we foster at Odoo. In our methodology, we foster actually from the very beginning the client involvement. Let's make an example. In our department for MMC, for instance, we are working with mid-markets and larger companies. We do actually an ROE analysis, as I said, previously before actually the implementation of the projects for different reasons. Obviously, for analyze these reasons to make sure that we cover the scope. And as Pierre said earlier, not only the as is situation, but the to be situation, what are my current needs today, but what I would like actually to get implemented tomorrow. All right. And the thing is actually as well in terms of implementation, really important for the methodology. Because for us, it's already a good test to make sure that they're going to be aligned and they're going to go along actually with the methodology that is used for the ROI because it's going to be exactly the same during the implementation. And this is basically the start of a relationship. This is the start actually of trust between the customer and between Odoo team. So here is actually about our methodology of project at Odoo. I refer you to different talks actually about the methodology. Here the goal is actually just to make a small recap. What are the 4 things to remind from the Odoo methodology? First of all, keep the solution standard as possible. So what does that mean? When we analyze different business processes and business needs, we challenge the customers when it's feasible to make a workaround in standard. We do it. We evaluate if there is actually added value behind. If so, we do it. If it's not possible based on different requirements, then in this case, we assess the feasibility and discuss basically the customization or development if needed. First part. Second part, deliver fast. The goal, as we said, is to work in an agile and an MVP methodology. So the goal really is to put in production and to make sure that the key users are trying the solution and getting feedback so we can basically, as a sprint, renew and improve what has not actually been perfect so far. Third thing, keep the implementation affordable. Obviously, as we said, one actually of the main value proposition of Odoo is getting the best price quality for the solution is exactly the same. You would like to pay less for the implementation of your project, stick to the standards, make compromise, think what is optimal for you, and then actually you will get the price getting lower. All right? And last but not least is getting efficient. One of the keywords that we do in terms of methodology is optimization, simplification. All this actually to make sure that if you respect the methodology, generally speaking, you will be more efficient and basically you will add value based on the way that you work right now.
So let's recap. You know what your business needs are, you know where you want to go. You have also explored the market openly and you structure your criteria of assessment. You even know how you will get it done, right? So should be all good. Well, actually, you're well prepared, but you're not there yet because now you need to really anticipate the change. The common mistake we see is really some customers that will underestimate or neglect the efforts and the involvement that is required in this implementation. You need us, and we'll really need you as well. So the first step is really about sponsoring the change, because after all, if only one part of the company is onboarded, it will definitely not be a success. You also need to select a proper key sponsor for the project specifically, but also think about the key users because they will be the best one to define the current situation and also the gap to define the best way we can run your business a bit smoother tomorrow. What you will also need to think about is really about focusing on not replicating what you currently have right now. And the last step is, of course, about anticipating the workload because, as we said, your involvement will be key from the start to the analysis to the implementation to even afterwards. It will take a lot of time. There is no magic there. So, what can you do? You can really prepare the fields. How can you get prepared? You can brainstorm internally. We still have some customers right now that still don't validate the internal business flow when the implementation already began. You can also, of course, think about the phasing of your implementation, but do it hand by hand with the editor, of course, because there might be some dependencies. Think about also about data migration. And last but not least, of course, prepare the end user onboarding because they will be the key for user acceptance. And they will be the one using the software the most. So the key message here is really be proactive. Of course, this was a few examples, and this is quite generic, but the main message is be proactive, not reactive. The keys are also quite simple, but yet challenging. Allocate enough resources, enough time, and be involved.
All right, great. So as a recap, all right, what are the 5 things that you guys need to remind actually from these talks? There we go. First of all, define and prioritize your business needs. Make sure that your to-be situation in terms of functionalities are covered. Okay, check with your key users to make sure that they all regroup already the different needs. First of all. Second, explore the market. Make sure that you have a comparison to compare Odoo as another solution. To make sure that you have basically a benchmark to assess the different possibilities. All right. Third, structure your decision criteria. Make sure that she is already weighted, what is worth actually better than the other criteria, so that actually you know exactly when you're going through. All right. Fourth, actually go along with the methodology that applies to you. One project implementer is not exactly the same as the other one. And sometimes one project is not the same. And you need to choose. And that's why this needs to fit with your methodology and in terms of culture as well. And last but not least, anticipate the changes. Prepare yourself. Make sure that the preparation before the project get be worth it actually during the process so that you manage your budget and that you manage your implementation. Thank you guys actually for this talk. We'll get back actually to you pretty soon. If you don't have any question, it's actually right now. Don't hesitate. All right, guys, thanks for attending the talk. We are here actually together to answer the Q&A session. Are you ready, Pierre?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's jump into it. All right. Let's start with the first question here. How much time do you recommend to spend for the selection? What according to you are actually the best practice in terms of timing?
Okay, I think it's actually quite a relevant question that we get on a regular base. I think it all depends on the resource that you will have, of course. But the first step is really to prepare before diving in, like for example, the search and the exploration of these solutions. So what we usually see, especially for large corporates, is that they take on average between 1 and 3 months to first brainstorm internally about their actual process that are in place, but also to highlight the pain point that they can have. And then for the selection itself with the integrator or with the editor, on average, we see it's between 2 and 4 months of selection process.
All right. Okay.
So second question I see from Lucas, how Odoo can help me in the preparation of my ERP selection?
Yeah, so we have actually from the very beginning actually of the process, and it's part of our job in the pre-sales team to define at some point with the customers the needs that we talked together in the video in the talk just previously. I think one of the things that is important is to challenge the customer from the very beginning, and this is part actually of all the pre-sales process that we're running with them. Another thing that is important in the process is the way of working. We're gonna set up on the table. We're gonna see how the customer is actually working on a share of screen, or to see basically the software, in order to understand the pain points of the customers and how basically we can optimize the features for the to-be solution in the future with Odoo. Those are typically examples where we accompany the client actually in the pre-sales process before.
Okay, good.
Another question here that we can answer, Pierre, is actually why is it relevant for the proof of concept for the clients in terms of use case and in terms of POC?
Okay, yeah, really good question as well, actually, because well, at least at Odoo, we really think it's important, to both see the products and not to see just a generic demonstration, but to really be able to project yourself in this solution. And for example, at Odoo, what we really like to do is that from the start, we'll qualify the needs of the client, and we'll actually ask the client to make a demonstration about how they actually work at the moment, in the present, so that we can identify with them the processes, but also the pain points. And it's really much better that we see with them how they work than just to get a documentation explaining it. Mm-hmm. We don't like to do generic demonstration because we think that there is too much of a risk that we might actually completely miss the point, and they might think that we don't understand their business, but it's just because we don't know it yet. Yep. So I would say overall, do it as soon as possible, because it will really help you to project yourself in the future solution as well.
Mm-hmm. Maybe to add on what you're saying, there is another point that is important as well, is the trust relationship that we can have with the clients from the very beginning. This is why the ROI analysis that we discussed during the talk is really essential to build the trust together with the clients, and so they can rely on us actually at some point in terms of integrator for the relationship of the project. And this is why this is from the very beginning, the phase 0 of the project for the relationship during 9 months, 10 months, but after the implementation of the first phase either, because at some point, this is one of the strategies to grow with the customer and to make sure that we're gonna evolve at some point with them. Here, from Nico, here we have a question about, I don't understand when you guys talking about business projects. It's a nice solution. It's an IT solution, sorry, to be replaced. How would you answer it based on this?
Okay, well, I do agree that it's an IT solution that you want to replace, but the fact is that the IT solution is actually there to answer the business needs. It's actually just a mean to get there. So we actually get it on a regular basis. I would even say on a weekly basis. Most of the time it's the, let's say, IT-oriented people that approach us, and it's good. It's normal. The only point is, the chance that your project is a success will also depend on not just having the IT involved, but also to have the business expert involved. Because at the end of the day, if we just think about IT requirement or just theoretical requirements, we're not sure that will really answer the effective need, and also we might struggle to highlight the actual pain point that these key users have.
Yeah.
That's why we think it's really important to involve them.
Actually, to add on what you just said, we saw today in Fabien's talk actually about the keynote and the vision, the strategy, that Odoo more and more the main objective and one of the focus for every version is actually to get a nice tool that's going to help the end user and to help really the final users on a day-to-day. That is like basically the objective, and for us it's exactly the same during this pre-sales process. Why? Because we're going to make sure that this product that we're going to build with them is totally reliable on their use, on the final user use, so that they can actually get a nice and not boring product, like Fabien said previously.
Yep.
All right. Here, what about the ability of the ERP to last on the long term and to evolve efficiently? How difficult is it to maintain this system and make it sustainable?
Okay, that's actually quite a good one. I think that at Odoo, one of the advantage that we have is that we really invest a lot into this, the fact that we don't want to have a solution that answer a need right now. We really want to aim on being on the long term, you know. That's why, for example, in the product that we have, we guarantee that the solution that you have will answer your needs now. And even if you have to do, for example, some development, they will be compatible in the future when we'll release new versions. So I think that's maybe one of the answer. I'm not sure, Robin, if that answers your question. If not, don't hesitate to react on the chat.
Okay, but it's time right now actually to finish the Q&A session. If you guys actually have additional questions to ask, don't hesitate to join us on the extended Q&A. Otherwise, thank you everyone for watching this talk, and happy Odoo experience, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.